But there is one person who dies with you all the way. I'm telling you. Do you know that who that young person is? It's you.
Yeah.
So what are some of the challenges, maybe for there's a young person out there that is thinking, there's this thing I need to change and I need to start this movement, this initiative?
Money. We cannot run away from it. So I think the first thing is normally funding. Funding your idea.
Yeah.
There are a lot of scarce funding, especially for young people, and especially those that are coming to Africa.
What is making it hard for young people to break into this governance cycle?
Let's develop a very flexible feedback loop, so that those in leadership right now are able to hear also what the young people are saying. Because that loop right now is not coexisting, right? The Gen Zs, the millennials are talking in their own cocoons, and then the gatekeepers, the people who are putting the guardrails, are also talking in their own cocoon.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Urban Online Show. It's the first time you're seeing my face after listening to my voice for a long time, and this is going to be special because it's the first episode we are having live recording. Not actually live, but video recording. And today we are going to be talking about something that I'll say it's dear to me, or not dear to me, but it's at the heart of young people. And at the Urban Online Show, we're looking at matter that is affecting young people, and we bring in bold voices from the community, from the world, from everywhere. And today, I'm not alone, and of course, I'm not with the usual voice that you normally listen to. I'm with Meshack. I'm going to say a few titles that I know about Meshack, and then he'll add, because I know there are a lot of titles that are there. But Meshack, I'm sitting with him today as the founder and CEO of Awake Youth Initiative. I know Awake Youth Initiative as an initiative that focuses on leadership and making young people to be change makers in their community. He's going to tell us more about that. Then there are also other titles there that you carry, but I'll let you say those ones because I just really know you as the founder and CEO of Awake Youth Initiative. Having a founder and CEO at a young age, and you really look young, so there's that judgment. But how is that?
Thank you so much, June, of course, for hosting me. It's such a pleasure to be here and have this conversation. As you've rightly said, I am Meshack. I'm so many things in one.
Yes.
So I am the founder and chief executive officer at Awake. So Awake is an organization that I founded in 2015 with a vision of transforming youth livelihood and leadership in underserved communities. Basically, what we do is what you've said. We empower grassroots youth as change makers for them to be able to identify some of the problems they're facing in their communities and to come up with solutions. Other than being the founder of Awake, I'm also an SDG1 youth ambassador with SDG Guild. So SDG Guild partners with the United Nations to measure the attainment of SDGs. And then the other big title that I really have is I am a We Are Family Foundation frontliner and also UNGA 79 youth delegate with We Are Family Foundation as well.
Wow. All those things at this age.
No, I mean, I know I honestly, it's the change making, and that is what change making gives you. Change making gets you into spaces, and in those spaces, then you find yourself having titles. But I think more than just those titles, it's the leadership in me that speaks quite a lot about the things that I've done.
So I just want you to go back a little bit and really back, because I want to get that spark that made you want to form Awake Youth Initiative, that moment that you felt like this thing is really needed to the community.
My mom is always my spark. So I have been born and raised in a very disintegrated family. I lived for most of the time with my mom. So the first change maker that I knew was my mom.
Wow.
She is an educator, but by then she was a very passionate educator who used to earn 3,000 per month, but was really very committed into supporting the education of young children in slum. And for me, that was big because, as a teacher, you're earning 3,000 shillings, you have 6 siblings that you need to take care of, but you're still very passionate about this work. But my change-making journey started in 2007 during the post-election violence, when I spoke to my kids club teacher, and I told him, look, because of what is happening in our community, I want to do a peace awareness campaign. Would you help me curate what that would look like? And with the support of the teacher, we designed what that program looked like. And then we rolled it out to the community. So we started doing peace campaigns around the community. And in 2008, my efforts were recognized. And I was able to present a Never Again report to the then Minister for Special Program, Naomi Shaban. And that just opened a lot of opportunities for me at national level. So I was part of the children who also enacted the Children Act 2008, 2012. I transitioned to high school, sponsored by the United Nations Environment Program. After high school, I joined Ashoka, which is the largest network of change makers in the world. And then with Ashoka, I went through their youth venture program, and I had an opportunity to start telling stories of change across 10 countries in Africa. And so that is, my aha moment is always the 2007 post-election violence, because that is where I started to understand that I could use my voice to end some of the atrocities that are happening within my community. And so after doing stories of change in the year 2013 and 2014, I came back back home. And I did ask myself one question. So with the network and with the knowledge that I have, how would have that benefited my community? And so we founded then Awake, behind that story, to continue empowering young people as change makers.
As change makers.
Yes.
Quite a journey.
Very long journey.
From home, it's like you started at the table with your mother there. Her seeing your mother, the work they're doing, is like, why not?
Oh, trust me. So my mom is my pillar. Even before that, even at home, the home setup for us, despite the challenges that we faced, not having enough resources to take care of us. But my mom herself was a resource. So in my early growing up, in my early growing up experiences, I did not have an opportunity to access school because there wasn't enough funds. So I let my sisters go, and then my mom would sit me down. So every afternoon with those 2 ABCD charts. And then, she would take me through ABCD up to Z. So my first language was developed at home.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that is very strong. And seeing that after all that you said, and then you came back to the community now, starting Awake, and you focused on young people. And I've been to a few of your events, and there's an aspect of bringing leadership into young people. What made you feel like young people really need to be part of leadership and governance and change makers and not anything else? Is it important for young people to know what leadership is, how it's important, that they need to be change makers at all?
They are the leaders of today, like we say.
Not tomorrow.
Not tomorrow.
Like they say.
Like today. And so we start from there. It is very important, and I've said this in several occasions, that even for you to elect a leader, you must understand what leadership is, because that is where we get it wrong. But now to your question, I think it is very important when young people are given spaces of leadership in different organizations or companies. We normally say, don't serve youth with leadership. Trust them to lead.
Wow.
And so that has always been my belief, even when I am, working with young people at Awake. And so our setup at Awake, from top level CEO all the way to our change makers, it's normally so youthish in nature. But because youths really bring certain unique assets in leadership. Right now, we are not even talking about leadership. We are talking about new leadership. Because, there has been, leadership has morphed over a time. The leadership that we had after independence is not the kind of leadership that we are now having post-independence. And even as we continue to face some of the global challenges, remember, everything rises and falls within leadership. And the biggest demography are the young people. And so I always believe that we need from onset to start empowering these young people as leaders so that they begin to recognize some of the challenges in their communities and take lead.
Okay, that's quite something. And young people are leaders of today, not leaders
tomorrow,
right now.
not tomorrow.
Okay, and a little honesty from that aspect of knowing that we really need young people in leadership and all that. Just to be honest, are young people now with the initiative that you're doing showing interest, showing up? Because there is a narrative that young people are neglecting these roles because they feel this is not for them. They have another aspect of what they want to do and not leadership. Are you seeing young people taking up leadership as something of their interest?
Yeah, you'd even think about it in the sense that what is happening right now in the country, young people want to be included in leadership. Young people are eager to bring new aspects of leadership, new skills in leadership, but also they're also happy to be be part of building their generational leadership. And so it is, young people have already shown the enthusiasm to be part of the leadership. But as I also started, I mentioned that I am a We Are Family Foundation frontliner and also like UNGA 79 delegate. And We Are Family Foundation has been at the forefront of championing youth work for the last 20 years. In one of the studies they did, which is the global study, they potentially were talking about, they were very enthusiastic about intergenerational collaboration as one of the bits and big pieces of strengthening youth leadership. And they were very cognizant of what are some of the competitive advantages that youth are bringing on board. And one of the things they say in that study is youths embody diversity. And I think you've even seen that in our context as Kenyans right now. We are now not divided within the tribal lanes, but we are uniting under one leadership for good leadership and for good. And then the second thing that they also found out in their study is that youth also value inclusivity. And I think you've also seen that. So these are top-notch values, even as identified by We Are Family Foundation, that I too believe that youths are bringing on board, and they're saying that if the current leadership is not inclusive, then they want to be part of the leadership to bring that inclusion. Lastly, in that thread, is to say that it is not actually the young people who are not on the table. We have gatekeepers on the table who don't want to invite the young people. Yes.
Okay. And just a moment, just to shift a little bit. There's a conversation that has been going on because now young people want to be involved and they have a way of speaking their mind. And there's this other generation that feel like young people are not being respectful or something like that. Or they're showing that other side and they want to change things. They're lazy when you look at the kind of work. Is the way young people speaking about what they want to see bad, or are they like forcing things that are not into existence or things that we're not used to as a country? Because there's an aspect when they're talking about how workplaces should be conducive for young people and for everything, and then people are like, no, young people, you are rude, you're not respecting the other generation, those conversations. What is your take on that? That is just
I know. We must be able to balance what it is, right? And when we're having this kind of conversation, we must be able first to shun away from people who are thinking traditionally. I think it is okay to begin to understand that there is a new crop of a generation that thinks very differently, and they're bringing very different perspective on the table. And I think to even take be able to then solve those generational fights where, for example, the baby boomers are feeling like the millennials and Gen Zs are bringing war and fight on the table, other than them seeing their value, then I think that is where we come in with intergenerational collaboration. Because we also believe that the old people have the institutional memory. And then for us, we are natives in a tech era. So we are bringing up new tech skills and also leadership skills. I think when we marry the two, then we bring adequacy in scarcity. So we need to shun away from working in silos as generations and think about intergenerational collaboration. Young people are not what the other generation will think they are. And when you begin to listen to them, when you invite them in conversation tables, you realize that they bring very new, bold perspectives that when added to the current leadership would spark growth and development.
Okay, that is something. Like we should come together and find a common ground. There's always a common ground.
Yes, everywhere.
Yeah, but when you talk about leadership and governance, sometimes it looks a little stiff and something that is really hard and like feels more like boardroom suits, things like that, and young people somehow want things that are a little bit lighter. So how do you make leadership and governance looks flexible to what young people are used to?
So then we begin by asking ourselves, what is the traditional setup of what quote unquote we would think leadership and governance has looked like before? Like you've said, when we think about leadership and governance, we're always thinking about boardroom conversations and politicians and all that. But young people are really now very fluid in the way they want leadership to look like. I think we first start by leading from within. And this is one thing that young people understand. The leadership is not just constrained into boardrooms or organizations or companies. We are even leading in our own communities, in our own houses. And if we even go to the proverbial setup of the Bible, you realize that leadership began at home with the father being the head of the family. So you need it as simple as that. And then now you begin to camouflage around. You begin to camouflage around what has been set up traditionally versus what really leadership needs to look like. So we don't need to make leadership very ad hoc stuff or make it as if it's a very stiff stuff and that it belongs to people who are putting on suits and ties and people who are speaking big English and jargons and all that. But that right now with the current shifts in the global challenges we are facing, leaders are those who are recognizing solutions and bringing about change. And so that is the first step to leadership. So when you even think about geopolitics or our own domestic politics here at home, some of the reasons as to why Gen Zs are on the street, it's not that boardroom conversations are not working and that there is no leadership in boardroom conversation, but because people are not taking initiative. So leadership has transitioned from boardroom conversations to really taking initiative.
More like giving solutions.
Not
talks.
I mean, stop all these old traditional aspects of, because you even think about the proverbial kings and how they used to rule their kingdoms. You'd even think about how our African setup looked like in terms of leadership, where we had the Nabongo Mumia. I don't know, I cannot even think about them. But for them, leadership was always about muscles and leading people from the front and going to war front. Right now, the challenges we are facing are very different. So we really have to be very fluid.
But as much as we are seeing young people taking up the responsibility and being interested in learning what is happening in leadership, in governance, in politics generally, there's still things that are holding us young people, don't you think? And what is making it hard for young people to break into this governance cycle, to make the leaders or the leaders that are still having the traditional leadership mind understand that things are changing? We need to do things a certain way for us to accommodate how the world and things are changing.
So earlier on I spoke about the We Are Family Foundation global study, and in one of the things they're also talking about is some of the solutions they're giving is that let's develop a very flexible feedback loop so that those in leadership right now are able to hear also what the young people are saying, because that loop right now is not coexisting, right? The Gen Zs, the millennials are talking in their own cocoons. And then the gatekeepers, the people who are putting the guardrails, are also talking in their own cocoon. And so we need to embody intergenerational collaboration that has a feedback loop in it, so that then we are able to begin to give the young people spaces to also speak on the table. The other thing, we need to not think when we are bringing young people to the table, we don't need to think of them as young people, but we need to see them as co-collaborators in the decision-making process. Right now, if I'm bringing a young person to the table, I'm bringing them just to have for optics, right? But I'm not bringing them because of the value that they bring on the table.
Yeah.
So leaders must start thinking about, if you're bringing young people to the table, what are some of the values that they're bringing on the table? Young people must also start thinking about what are some of the values that they want to get to the table.
Yeah.
So I think, genuinely enough, for the young people to be able to break barriers, to get into the conversation table, they need to make sure that there is a value they're bringing on the table.
Yeah.
And the other side, the leaders who are already on the table need to start developing a feedback loop where they also get to hear what young people are saying and what they're saying as well.
Yeah, the feedback loop. I think that is because most of the time we are like talking what you feel and then it just disappears
on the air.
And then we forget it and we move on. And then another problem comes, we go to the streets, speak about it, and then they disappear.
Yeah.
That is quite important.
Yeah.
But sometimes when you're talking about young people being included, there is always that say that young people cannot, like maybe I gave this person this thing and they're not, like that's when they see young people, it's always like a threat. It's not even into leadership, also in different initiatives. When a young person is going to maybe secure funding, there's that question, are you able to handle funds as a young person? So is it like people see young people as a threat or they're just using that of viewing of young people as criminals to just defend? So more like, are they creating walls like tapes or politics to cover young people from these opportunities? Or have you experienced such as a young CEO and co-founder?
We must allow young people we also must allow young people to make mistakes, right? And we cannot judge them on the first or the second mistakes they are making. They are also in the learning process. I mean, even those who are owning those tables, who quote unquote are old, they were once young, and the only way they access those tables is that they were given opportunities to showcase what they have. So it is very important that we also look at young people as human beings and stop judging them even before giving them opportunities. Of course, you did ask me if I've experienced that as a CEO. Of course, a lot. I mean, a lot of times your name will be mentioned on conversational tables, and people will just shun away like, but is a young person, could we try like an old person who has experience, but how am I going to get that experience if you're not giving me a trial? I mean, we even talking about, for example, what people are doing right now in youth and urbanism, and I love your setup because it's young people. So how are we also opening up workspaces for young people to begin to get experiences? Because any work outside there, they're talking about, we need like 5 years experience,
10 years
experience. But then I'm just a young person who left uni the other day. I don't have this experience. Yet every workplace is shutting their doors for me. They don't want me to have my first year experience, second year experience. So where am I gonna get this experience? And when you talk about experience, it's a positive connotation, but basically experience means that you learn and unlearn. So the things that you do better and the things that you didn't do better, all that put up together make up the word experience. So when we want young people to have experiences, then we must allow them to make mistakes and also to celebrate their successes. But yes, there is still, like I said, a lot of gatekeeping. Even in conversations, I tell you, before I attended the United Nations General Assembly, the 79th session of the United Nations General Assembly, I attended the United Nations Civil Society Conference here in Nairobi. And one of the conversations, and it's always been the conversation that has always been in these spaces. Let's give young people an opportunity on the conversation table, or let's get more young people on the conversation. But you see, the gatekeepers, like you say, are still afraid of the new ideas that young people are bringing on board, because probably they feel that young people are very disruptive in their ideas, very innovative, and they will come on the table and change everything. So I think I am a very big fan of intergenerational collaboration. How do I know that when we come together, our solution is as greater and as stronger than when we work in silos?
And talking about collaboration, just to put it up there, I don't know if this is like you're comfortable with it, but I attended your Youth Quick Summit, and you were able to get people, like, you know what I mean, to come to the summit. There was Abel, Mutua, Janet. I just want to put it out there. Just tell us, how was that? Because I was imagining getting Abel to come and speak to the young people that you brought, that were there sharing their ideas. Janet, they're sharing their stories to young people. There was the producer of Feel It. I can't really remember her name. Denise. Speaking about the experiences. How was that?
I honestly, that's a very good question, and you really like cornered me. But I'll be honest with you. So again, I'm very big on mapping and being very strategic. And how I do this is I am a communicator and I'm a networker. So I don't get chances to waste when I find people that I really boldly want to approach and talk to them about something. So I'll give you an example with Janet. You heard how we met at the airport, and then that turned to be her coming to our event. But also now with Denise, and how we get Abel is Denise sits on my board.
Wow.
Right? On my advisory board. So Denise produces for Abel. And so it's so easier for me to get Denise to get into Abel. So I have been very strategic in terms of even how I set up the board and what I want to access. So if I know June, if I have June within my structure, I would be able to access other opportunities. Then I would make sure that I have June within my structures. And it's a surprise, and a lot of people are telling me, there's no young person who's done this before and just brought like all these people together. But also it is, what value are you bringing, right? If you want Abel, you must make sure that if Abel is coming to that table, he's going to get another person who adds value into what they do. If you want Janet, if Janet realizes that Abel is coming, she will be like, I want to connect with Abel. So even how we view things that we do as young people. If I want to invite June, I must make sure that if June is coming to this space, she's also coming to get value. So that it's never that you're not the person who is normally given. And then you're not giving. That is how I've always thought about it.
And I think that is like important for young people to understand, because sometimes as young people we are so much into, we want someone to give us, like most of the time, and if someone doesn't give you, we really feel like this person is not supportive, and we don't consider the aspect of what are you giving the person that is supporting.
I'll tell you, it's relationship building, right? So young people want quick things. If I meet June today, I want June to come to my show tomorrow. I want June to show up to my event tomorrow. But relationship building is very important, because then that is where people get to trust you. So even how I got to know Denise, it's through her aunt. Her aunt is US based, and she was our individual donor. And then we built that relationship for 7 years. And just after 7 years, that is when she was able to introduce me to Denise.
It's not like a one-day thing.
It's not a one-day thing.
Wow.
So we must begin to tell young people that it takes time. Right? And you need to trust that time, and then you need to be big on relationship building. Let people come to you because you've already built that relationship. That way, they would see that you're not probably just want to use their brand, but they would see, or they would already have evaluated the value that you also bring on the table, and also understand your work. But if we need short-term things, it gets so difficult to bring, quote unquote, the OGs of the industry to the table with that kind of thinking. So you really need to trust, build that relationship, and also be able to showcase what you are doing as well.
And it takes time, because I remember even Abel telling the story of what it took for him to like be where he is right now. And sometimes as we are watching him, we think this is something he did in a day and stuff like that.
And there is always an example that I love about Usain Bolt, right? We have only seen Usain Bolt run for 10 minutes on our screens. 10 minutes. But this person has probably trained for the last 10 years. For him to get an opportunity within 10 years that will transform his life. So you see the the work that he's put in for the last 10 years, and then the output just comes within 10 minutes, and it blows in your entire life.
Yeah.
When young people begin to understand that kind of concept, then you begin to trust in your own journey and trust in relationship building as well.
And building your journey, because now when you're talking about the things you have to put for something to work, it means you'll be doing them behind the scenes.
Yes.
So sometimes you might not get that support that you need when you're trying to build something.
Yeah.
But after you build it, when people see the value of it. So it means when you want to achieve something, there's a lot of patience that needs to come with it.
Yeah.
Being patient with yourself and putting in the work, even if no one is appreciating.
And you will never miss a cheering squad.
Yeah.
Even your cheering squad could be your family, your brother, your sister, could be a June somewhere who says, look, I understand the efforts you're putting. I see the vision and I also see the struggle.
Yeah.
I want to walk this journey with you. So I don't, in my mind, I'm very clear that yes, the struggles are there for founders, but there is always people who are cheering you from behind. But you first have to be your own cheerleader.
Yeah.
If that starts from you, then it's in a minimal way, you'll be seeking for external validation to continue with your journey.
Yeah.
So if you are a cheerleader of your own things, if you are starting a show like this, I tend to believe that once you are cheering yourself to continue with this, you'll basically do it. But when you depend on external validation, if that validation isn't present, then it means that your project will be absent as well.
Yeah, that is, I think if young people are listening, that is something we really need to take, because most of the time we try things and then we get, I want to call them noise from outside, because people really don't know what you put to achieve what you're doing. And there are a lot of
external noise.
When you're not like validating yourself, like you said, you tend to give up because people are saying you cannot make it. But you first need to be your own cheer.
Okay. But sometimes even for over expectations. I am a young person. I am a young founder. I have messed on the way quite a lot, right? But my cheerleaders, the people who believe in this journey, are the people who've always seen me mess up, and they don't judge me by that. They come to me and they tell me, look, you messed up here. This is how to do it. Let's continue, drink more water, the journey continues, right? There is a quote by Rumi that I normally love to post all the time. It says, look, I know you are tired, but come, this is the way. So sometimes even through the mistakes that you make, you realize that, no, I'm so tired and I'm not going on with this journey. And so always when I reflect on that quote, it tells me, look, I know you're tired, but come, this is the way. It means that the way is still there and I can still continue
You're still
walking.
in the right track.
So my cheerleaders are people who believe in that quote. People who believe that I'm a young person, I can mess, but I'm also very passionate about solving some of the crucial problems that my community is facing.
And that means you also need to get right cheerleaders.
Yes, I mean, so who are the right cheerleaders?
Because not everyone will believe in what you're trying to do.
Yeah, but there is one person who dies with you all the way. I'm telling you. Do you know that who that young person is? It's you.
Wow.
Even when people depart away from you,
it still circles back to you.
The instinct is with you. No, I'm waking up tomorrow in the morning. I'm going to do youth and urbanism. I'm going to do Awake. I'm going to do this vision. But again, there is something that you said, John, that I really love. That at the end, people want to celebrate the end product.
The end product.
People really want to start being like, no, but I know I do. I know June. Because now the end product is flourishing and they want to be part of that. Right?
Yeah.
But also even at that stage, you still need to know who is your cheerleader.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Such catching. I'm even lost of words. But sometimes when you now look at young people that are trying to do something, maybe they have started different initiatives they're running, and then they feel like they're going into spaces and they talk their ideas, they share their mind, and nothing comes out of it, and they feel like maybe these people are using my idea. There's always that saying that young people have, that they're using me, they're taking my idea and they're not giving me something. And that takes me to like meaningful engagement.
Yes,
How do you know this is like a meaningful? Because of course there are people that are using young people for their ideas and stuff like that. So what does meaningful youth engagement or the intergenerational collaboration you're talking about looks like?
I think meaningful youth engagement, even how We Are Family Foundation defines it, is that you are able to invite the perspective of young people and see them as co-creators and co-collaborators in a process. And that it is very important to start a process with the young people from start to finish. Through that, young people would see the goodwill from you, then start to think that you're using them. They must be part and parcel of that co-creation process. So if a funder wants to support me, for example, they must begin that journey with me from start all the way to finish. Because it is only through that that I can see the ingenuity, how I'm getting involved, what percentage of my energy is getting used, what is the value addition in this process. Young people must also be sensitive when they're getting into spaces where people tell them, you know what, I want to support you and I want to be part of your journey. You must see how you're being involved in creating that journey. What value are you getting in that journey? But even you as a young person, through your dreams, through your vision, what value are you giving back to them? There must be a very watertight, a very clear shareholding once you are getting in such engagements. So it is very important that young people who are engaging you when you're talking about meaningful engagement, that they don't just see you as a young person, but they see you as a co-creator in the process.
Co-creator in the process. I think that because we get such comments when people are talking about they tried applying for funding and they don't get that fund. Who gets that fund? That money is not for young people. They're saying it's for young people. Because there's an event I went, and after pitching our idea, I was pitching for Motor Bricks, and they asked me, there was a question, have you, as we are initiative, gotten funding from the funders? And I was like, how was it? Because at that time, we applied and then we got the funding. But there are people that they're saying they've applied how many times and they didn't get the funding, and now they're shaming on the donors. Those funds are not friendly for young people. They're using our ideas, stuff like that.
And I love the fact that you brought that up. And, you know, I'm a very big fan. And throughout these interviews, also you'll hear me talk a lot about We Are Family Foundation. People need to try because, so the first funder that believed in my idea was We Are Family Foundation, right? And I had applied thrice for that opportunity. So the first one, the second one, and the third one. But every time I applied, there was a very consistent loop of feedback and engagement post-application. So that then that was very important because it helped me design my next proposal once there is a call for application in a way that aligns with what they're looking at. And then there was the second trial. Again, I didn't get it right. And then the third trial, I got it right. This is the first organization that gave me 10,000 USD. You know, as a young person and you're doing your stuff and then you get your first 10,000 USD, you're like, oh my God, so I can get 1 million shillings just through this idea. And for them, it's not just a grant, it's a journey that they're taking you with. So I'll tell you the journey. So I started, they first gave me the grant through their Youth the Front Fund. And then that is after trying thrice. And that means that significantly, they were also watching my journey as an applicant to their Youth the Front Fund, right? And then after I got that grant with them, they gave me another renewal again. After the renewal, they now shifted me from the Youth the Front Fund, having capacity built me to the Youth to the Table. And so it is through Youth to the Table program that now it took me to UNGA 79 and to the United Nations Civil Society Conference. So you see, it's a journey that they take you so that then as a young person, you begin to see that this is a meaningful engagement and like these people really mean well for my journey. Two, it's the reporting process for the grant.
Yeah.
There are not people who will follow you up with reports and bang you with reports. They understand that once we give Edu this money, Edu needs to hit his head on the ground to do the real work.
Yeah.
So look, Edu, give us the report at the end of 1 year.
Wow.
Just give us a report at the end of 1 year.
Young people should check it out.
So thing is, how do you develop programs?
Yeah.
And this is something that I normally tell my staffs at Awake. How do you develop pro-youth friendly programs that understand young people and that embody what young people really want?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. This is truly something. And we'll really you'll share how young people can really check that out, because I think they are being really friendly for young people.
Yeah.
When I was at the Youth Quick, and there was something that Denise kept on insisting on, that how do people know what you're doing as a young person, so that even when you're applying for the funds, they can see this person has been doing this for quite a while.
Yeah.
And right now we are living on our phones, and we are in technology. How can we use tech and social media to turn scrolls into civic education or civic action and leadership, or just generally what young people are doing?
Yeah, tech is powerful. And I love the fact that you're quoting Denise, because Denise is a firebrand who is actually supporting young people to create their niche and also create their brand. And you realize that she was very big on that.
Creating your brand.
How do you pluck yourself outside Awake?
The organization.
And like create yourself as a brand. And that is the role that tech helps in, right? So you can use tech for good, or tech can also be a destroyer for the community and for your own brand.
Yeah.
So young people must begin to understand how they develop their journey through tech. How do you brand yourself outside there? If I have a donor in the US, they can't see me physically. They only see me through the social media. So then how do I brand myself around social media in a way that embodies who I am first, the values that I stand for, and what I am doing with my organization? Because it is only through that that then you are using tech for good, and that you're using tech to rally resources around your organization. So I believe that young people must rethink the use of tech to build themselves and to build their brands and to build the organizations and the company they are trying to bring up. And the only way to think about that is to first reflect upon themselves, is who do they want to reflect out there? It starts with an internal reflection. Build that brand within first, and then take it to any social media platform right now. And then now put it out there, and people will start identifying June as this very passionate podcaster, as this passionate host. And it is probably through you know, always posting all these interviews that you're having with us online. And so I believe that is how we can use tech for good, even in terms of activism. And tech has really played a very big role, right? So how do we even make sure that when it comes to policy making, my mom, a mama mboga, would be able to understand the policy making process in the simplest way. The only way I can do that is by tech helping me to simplify the most complex policies into very simple, simple, probably even translated into into the tribal, how do I say it, the tribal
different tribes,
the different languages, tribal languages, so that our parents can also the indigenous languages, that is what I wanted to say, so that our parents can also get to understand what policy making process. If you're talking about leadership and voting in 2027, and here we are saying, our parents have been making very bad decisions about voting, so we want to hold their ID. Is that the right thing to do? Or the right thing to do is to use tech for good, to make sure that you are translating why it is very important to elect good leaders. And then you get it to them for them to begin to understand why this is important in a language that they mostly understand. So I believe that is how young people can use tech for good and tech in activism spaces as well.
Yeah. And talking about tech, there is something there's an email I got yesterday. There's an event I'm supposed to attend, but they're talking about AI and the resources and governance. And they're saying that right now AI is shaping industries and like everyday's life. But there are debates around bias outcomes, privacy, regulations. How is it? Is it going to be safe as we continue to transit into the tech part of regulating things, or even conducting resources in the country? So what is your opinion on, is it going to be safe in terms of privacy, regulations, outcomes, biasness, things like that? That's just a by the way question.
No, and I love, because it's a by the way, I'm not really like an AI enthusiast, especially with the conversations. But what I'll say is, for everything that you access, it depends on how you want to access it, right? What is the ethics behind you accessing AI and all that? And so when we access AI in a very ethical way, then it's going to be used for good. But when it's in an unethical way, then it's not going to be for good use. So my take is, even when young people are using AI, are we using it for good? Is it coming from an ethical point of view? If it's so, then AI is really going to be very helpful in terms of redefining how we are doing things as human beings, and even making them very simple for us. I think that is just my take around it.
I was getting different opinions on that, because it's a conversation that is still ongoing. But when you're talking about young people trying to make the brand out of what they're doing and using social media out there, because you're also looking at young people like changing the community, because change makers are about bringing change to the community, and you believe young people can be change makers that bring change in the community. But there is a young person that might be listening out there and they're like, nah, this is not my thing. I'm a one-person voice. How can I be a change maker to change my community? Is that even possible? What would you like to tell that young person that feels that way?
I think let's break down what then change making is. From the traditional thinking, people have always thought about change making as building bigger organizations, building bigger company, having a bigger movement, right? Shaking up things and shaking the world. But change making is as simple as saying, let's plant a tree here. It's as simple as saying, I need good governance. And I'm going to use my voice as a single person to talk about what good governance is. So young people must shun away from the thought that change making is about shaking the world to the simplest things that you do every day that are changing governance, that are changing structures, that are bringing solutions to the simplest things, challenges that you're also facing in the community. So for a young person who believes that, they don't want to go the company way, the organization way, which is not an easy way. And I always tell young people, I always ask our change makers once they're done with our training, look, you can go as a solo change maker and just go into the community and begin talking about some of the challenges that you're facing, or start youth and urbanism or Motor Bricks or Awake. But if you want to start youth and urbanism or Motor Bricks or Awake or any other organization, be ready for the challenges. So I'll basically tell you, if you're not ready to go that direction, just go talk about issues. That is still change making. And you'll build a movement of followers who believe in things that you're talking about. And you'll become a movement builder by that. And just within that, you're a change maker. Let me tell you, even when you're using your voice as a person, even when you're having a podcast, a solo podcast as a person, you're building a movement of people who believe in what you're saying. And that by itself is change making. When you're talking about issues that are affecting your community as a solo person, that is change making. So the building blocks of change making begins as simple as that to as complex as what we would imagine.
The simple things that you can
do. The simple things. The simple things.
Doesn't need to be complicated.
No.
But before you continue, you've been talking about the successes that you've been doing,
Yes.
the different spaces you've been doing, meeting Janet at the airport and stuff like that. But I watched a video you did with Safaricom.
Oh my goodness.
That's that when I watched
you
it.
really did your due diligence.
I had to. And you're talking about challenges that you faced as a young person starting an initiative and a male young person for that aspect. So what are some of the challenges, maybe for there's a young person out there that is thinking there's this thing I need to change and I need to start this movement, this initiative. What are those challenges that they need to expect that you experienced?
Money.
Wow. Okay. I didn't see that coming.
I mean, what is it? What is it? We cannot run away from it. I think the first thing is that I'm even facing right now. I mean, when you see the founders working with their laptops, we're not working with them because we are founders. We are always just writing proposals everywhere, even on the lakes. And I mean, when you are taking that cool breeze beside the lake and everything.
Looking for funds.
Always looking for funds. So I think the first thing is normally funding, funding your idea. There are a lot of scarce funding, especially for young people, and especially those that are coming to Africa. Africa organizations and companies get very little funding. And in fact, that is because we don't even have investors in Africa who believe in our own work. So funding has always been the problem. And then two is normally what is your support system? You spoke about that. Very, very big. So who are your cheerleaders? It gets to a point where you really get exhausted mentally. Right? I always love Adele is my good friend. And when she talks about legally clueless, I love that term, because as founders, as I start my vision, I'm always legally clueless about what I want to do. Do you know the only two tools that I normally have is passion and me. Actually, passion and the idea. But you're always very clueless about what's the pathway that I want to take. So you keep on second guessing things.
Just trying things
exactly,
out.
Right? But your support system, that is your knowledge base. Those are the people who give you advice. Those are the people who give you direction. If you lack that, then you are going to grow weary. You are going to grow weary in that journey. So it is, I think one of the other challenges that I really faced when I was starting is there wasn't a big support system. I told you my only support system was my mom, but she was also busy doing life, right? So, so you know, as I grew through the path, then I got a very big support system, because people are now like, okay, we are seeing something. Okay, we are seeing now Edu progressing. Then they're like, Edu, najua nini? I can actually help you like fix the podcast, whatever. And then that is like your support system. So one of the challenges, the second challenge that I faced is just when I started, there wasn't as much as support system, because they'll also be like, this is just a young person starting. There's nowhere he's heading
This
with that
thing
idea,
can't be
right?
big as he thinks.
Three, especially those who are working in this community, single stories. Single stories. Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie talks about the danger of a single story. And she says that when you're working with the communities that are so engulfed in their own single stories, and they don't believe in any good idea that can change them, it becomes so hard for you to cut through that barrier as a founder. So when you're working with a community that believes, no, we are retrogressive, nothing good will you ever bring to us that can change our lives. And then you are the only person out of 1,000 people who believes that, no, this idea is going to change this community. And then 999 people are like,
looking at you like,
what are you saying? We actually don't believe in that. There is nothing good that has ever happened in this community. Especially for me, when I started Awake, I started it at the sidelines of the church. Even the church members did not believe that this is something that would be where. Church members, I'm saying that strategically. People who have faith, you know, the saints and the faithful, exactly.
Don't have faith in
exactly.
You.
They don't have faith in your idea. They actually don't have faith in change. You know what I'm saying? So if you're working with a community that is engulfed in a single story, there's a danger of that. Chimamanda gives an example of how her US roommate did not even understand how she could use a gas cylinder. I mean, that is not something that an African should know, would know by that time. And so when she saw Chimamanda using a gas cylinder, she was so surprised. I mean, how did you know about this?
Africa's nuts.
Exactly. When Chimamanda was talking about the snow and the apples in her storybook, she was like, but no, wait, there's no snow and apples in Africa. How would you know about that? So that is the danger of a single story. So even as a young person starting my project, my organization in my own community, there was single stories that surrounded that. And if my ears were amplified to those single stories, I wouldn't be doing 10 years where I am today. So it is very important that you also begin to hear the voices that have single stories. I think the last one is sometimes you just become rusty. Man, I'm telling you, I've done 10 years right now. 10 years, we're celebrating 10 years in August.
Wow.
I'm so tired as a founder. I'm always like, okay, who is coming to sell me? Like
you need someone. You can just take everything and give to someone else to carry all the ideas.
And so when you hear my clip, when I was talking to Safaricom, I was actually telling them that I was talking about mental health.
Yes.
You're thinking about your project. You're thinking to do your life. You're thinking about your relationship.
Yeah.
But as a founder, the first top layer in your mind is normally your project.
Yeah.
And when things are not working and grants are not coming your way, you kind of get depressed. And so I had moments of depression, and I had to leave the project at some point for 2 years and then come back to it.
Wow. So you left
I left awake. I left awake for 2 good years. For 2 good years.
Wow.
And let me tell you something. If Edu leaves youth and urbanism right now for 2 years.
Where is he going?
No, but it's not also about where is he going. But the founder has the blueprint to where I want to take this organization to. Whether you like it or not, you would say that, the founder is not collaborative or the founder doesn't want to share the knowledge. The founder normally has the DNA for the organization. You either stay with that or you leave. So even if Edu leaves this organization for the next 6 months, you're going to get lost. People inside here are just going to do labalus. So when I left for 2 years, it means that there wasn't a sense of direction. Even the board that was there didn't have a sense of direction where they would take that organization to, because they could not read through my mind. And so what that meant is Awake we were like now again resurfacing out of our space. When I came back, I had to reignite it with a very different pathway as well. So, I think depression really took me down.
But is that important? Because when sometimes you're trying something and you feel like you're rusty, you feel like you need to get is that important? Just to leave what you're doing for some times and go and recharge and rethink and redo everything? Because
there is not the second you. It's you and you.
Okay.
It's you doing it. So you gonna go and get that rest. Right?
Yeah.
The longer you take, the better for you. Because now when you come, you have pumped in more energy and you're able to take the organization from there. After all, after doing all this community work that we do and transformation, we get back home to rest. Do you know why that is very important? Because east or west, home is the best. You're not going to die on the front line for people. You must first take care of yourself.
And I don't know if I'm saying it too much, but Dennis insisted that there is you before the organization. Even if you're the founder or something, you need to look at how you're building yourself also. Don't lose yourself when you're trying to give to the community. Because the work we're doing is always for the community.
So one of the things that I've learned for the last 10 years doing Awake, when I started in the first 3 years, Manzi, I was always waking up very early in the morning, want to do proposals at 4, leave the office at around 9 and all that. In my 10th year right now, I go to my mom's place at 5. Because I've learned that the world is not running, I think that what experience gives you is the moderation to do things, right? You now understand it's not how hard I work, it's how smart I work. So for me, it's 5, it's 6 p.m. I shut everything off. I call my mom, uko wapi? I'm coming to your house. I go and do family.
It's important. It's really
Very,
important.
very,
These things are not running away.
No, they're not.
Yeah.
And you see, the other thing is, even the problem that you're sorting, you cannot sort the whole of it. You can only do your part.
Yeah.
It is very important for you to know that.
Yeah.
You know, when I was starting, I had this passion and atheism, and I wanted to be everywhere. I wanted to be heard. I wanted to shake things, to solve all the problems. I wanted to be like in this boardroom and the other boardroom talking and on televisions. Nowadays, I even tell people that I'm not coming for that interview if it's not aligning with me. But when I started, I was like, no, KTN is calling me to talk about men and depression. That is not my space, but I'm coming.
But it's KTN,
I'm coming
right?
there. I'm coming there. But because it's TV, I want to be seen, you know.
Yeah.
But right now, I have the guts to say, no, I don't think if that is aligning with me, so I'm not showing up for that. And that is why even when you invited me, I wanted to know, okay, what are we coming to talk about? Leadership and governance. That's me. I'm coming. I'm coming. Yeah.
Okay, and thank God I chose right, because right now I don't know who I'll be speaking to.
Yeah.
But that brings me to one of my last questions.
Yeah.
Anyway, the niche.
Yeah.
How do you really know not to do everything? Because sometimes when you're starting and as a young person, you want to be everywhere,
yeah.
to apply for all the fundings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how to answer that, but I would say like experience is the best teacher.
Okay.
Like I said, when you start, you're legally clueless. And the reason why you will be everywhere is just because of that. You are legally clueless, especially on the direction that you want to take, right?
Yeah.
But with time, as you begin to do you and you begin to do your journey, you start narrowing down to your niche. You start understanding that, look, as Meshack, yes, I'm very passionate about education, right? And leadership. Yeah. But that doesn't mean that I can't do anything in the green space. So if I would be starting my project now, I would be trying to fix myself everywhere. Yeah. But right now, I'm so specific that we can do something around climate action within education. Yes. So I align it, right? Yeah. So as you start, you probably want to be everywhere, and that is a learning phase for you. But as you continue with your organization, you now start trickling down and understanding what your niche is. Okay. And sometimes you remember the support system that I spoke about? Yeah. That the people who now start narrowing you down to look, we believe that this is the space that you can make the most transformative impact. Yeah.
Wow. It comes with time.
Yeah, it does come with time. Everything.
It comes with time.
Yeah. When I see, right now I see a lot of young people, and I don't know if you Edu and also you shared this with me. I see a young person who is starting the organization right now, and I see the fire in them and how they're pumped and how they want to be in every space. And as a 10-year OG, yeah, because you see, for organizations after 3 years, 4 years, you're starting becoming an OG. You're just looking at their energy and you're like, pull up.
Relax.
We're just gonna see you start identifying your space, and then later within 10 years you'll be like, I'm so proud of you. You've actually now known your space. Yeah. You know where you can make most of the impact, and you're not trying to be everywhere at the same time. Yeah.
Okay. Let's give it time.
Yeah, I know.
Let's give it time. Yeah. It doesn't work overnight.
No, it doesn't work overnight.
And you're getting that from a 10-year CEO and founder.
I know.
You look young to be saying you've been for 10 years.
So people tell me I'm young and I say, yes, I want to be young. And I think it's, even how we've defined things as young people is interesting. So if I would introduce myself right now as a chief executive officer, people would be like, Kitambo people will be like, do you know who CEOs are? Yeah. But you see, right now, young people are actually identified as that. Yeah. Like I'll go somewhere and say that I'm a chief executive officer of Awake, and people will begin to embrace that. Because they see the journey that you've done and the years that you've done.
But I think for me, for itself.
And for me, it's not about it speaking for itself. It's about believing on the title that you give yourself and knowing that you can become that. Okay. I even respect an 8-month-year-old CEO. You know what I'm saying? Because they totally believe that that is them. And with time, I don't want to be the person who believes in somebody with time. I want to be the person who believes in somebody or at onset. Yeah. So that I begin traveling that journey with you, with being your biggest support system and your biggest believer.
If we continue, I don't think if you're going to finish this talk right now.
Yeah.
Because things are just popping up.
Yeah.
But I want to,
Yeah.
because maybe if we finish talking about Awake, I want to know so that people can also know what is Awake doing right now, or something that is cooking for Awake. I've had the 10th year anniversary in August. I'm going to mark that. I'll come even if I don't get invited. So it is really cooking for Awake right now.
That's a very good question. I know it gets me back to like my CEO hat. And one of the things that is really happening right now is for the last 10 years, we've done 2 programs. So Awake Lead Young, which is an 8-month leadership, entrepreneurship, and financial literacy program for young people between the age of 18 to 24. And then we tie them into organizations and companies that are our partners for internship. And then they come back to their community either as change makers who really want to launch their projects and bring about change, or they get into industry and they begin applying their skills in workplaces. And so we are actually having 11 young people who've already launched their projects for the last 10 years. And that is really something big that we are celebrating in that program. And then we have the Changemaker School. So our Changemaker School is just a normal school that is embedded on the Ministry of Education curriculum. However, we've introduced very creative programs for the students so that they begin identifying as change makers at that young age. So they are doing coding classes, they're doing climate action, but they're also learning SDGs for children at that age. So these 2 programs have been running for the last 10 years concurrently. And our flagship program is the Awake Lead Young program. So having worked with 3,000 change makers for the last 10 years, and having brought up founders who are running the initiatives in their community, right now we are thinking, how now do we begin to transition them from just thinking about challenges they're facing to beginning to have a systems thinking mentality. So we want to get them really into spaces where the problems are, because the problem now is within the system. So how do they begin to become conveners and also be part of the convenings where policy framework are being designed, but also decision making are being made. So one of the programs that we're launching in our 10th year is called Awake Youth Connect. So we want to begin connecting them to regional, local spaces and international spaces where decision making for young people is happening, but also policy and policy influencing is also happening. So that is the biggest thing that is coming right now, and it will be open to every young founder who is doing something very small in their community that they feel that their voices is not being heard. And there are a lot of social entrepreneurs who are bringing social impact at grassroots level, but their voices are not heard on the decision-making tables. So that is the space where we are getting into. We are saying, look, we have raised change makers, but it is not just enough to raise them. We now want to get them into spaces where the real conversation is happening and where we believe their voices would matter when decisions are being made.
Wow. And so we young founders should look out for that.
Should look out for that. We're launching these in September.
In September.
Yes.
Okay. I think that is it's a good initiative to not only just take young people through trainings, but also to connect them to where they really need to get to be heard. The initiative. It's a good thing. And if you're listening and you're a young founder, you should follow up with that conversation with Awake. Actually, that is now bringing me to the end of my question. I don't know what else to have conversation with you about. But I'll want to know if you're given the position to change. There is that one thing that you feel if you change, it will be very impactful for young people, be it in the systems, in the government, in the economy, anywhere.
Is mindset shift. Mindset shift is very important for me. But in the aspect of systems thinking, having worked with young people for the last 10 years, I have realized that there are a lot of barriers that are disenabling young people to access opportunities, and they exist within the systems. And specifically, I'm getting into education and trying to look at what does that system look like. What are the policies and policies implications, especially for underserved children, and how can we offer more opportunities to underserved children and girls. For example, one of the policy gaps that I've really realized is in terms of bursary disbursement. How do we make sure that 60% of bursary disbursement totally goes to girls at constituency level? Because a lot of girls are leaving out school at primary level and also at high school level. But I believe that if we begin to champion certain percentage to specifically go to girls around bursaries, then it's going to power their education. So that is really something that I've been thinking about, and getting into systems. It's a policy statement that I want to begin championing around education. So we have more of the bursaries go to girls, because right now there is no any percentage that goes to girls and boys. And we need to rethink about that. And that is not me saying that I'm not thinking about boys, but given the highest percentage of dropouts really lies within the girls. And we want to make sure that we champion them back to school.
That is really. I don't know why I've never even thought about that. Having bursaries that are like, this percentage goes specifically to girls. And
there are a lot of like really hidden policy frameworks that need to be reintroduced into education systems. And for me, bursary, the reason why I loved bursary, it's because it's grassroots. So I really like, if we can get bursaries at grassroots level to give girls who are at grassroots, then we can champion education at grassroots.
That is important. That is really, really important. Meshack, me, I don't have any other question. I'm really trying, but because we've really touched into very important, and I hope like if you're listening, because there are things that you really say that are really important in the journey of starting whatever you're doing. You're not even talking about leadership only, because what the points you're making are into whatever you are doing. I hope you're getting something.
Definitely, definitely. I mean, what I also believe is, and the reason why I loved this conversation, it's very organic in itself. It's not designed. And I don't love designed conversations, because then they limit me to how I can speak and how I really believe things should be done. And so this organic conversation and all this is really something that I appreciate. But also the topic around leadership and governance, like I said, it really speaks a lot to me. And so I'm also just very grateful for you for thinking about me, inviting me to come and speak about these issues.
Do you have any last words to young people that are listening?
I think for the young people, I always say, start small, think big, grow fast.
Start small, think big, grow fast.
Yeah, that's my word.
You got it. Start small, think big, grow fast. And that brings me to the end of this conversation, Meshack. And if you're listening, I hope you're I don't know why I keep saying you're walking away, but walking away means you're ending this conversation inspired and challenged, as I am. And as I hope you are, at whatever you are thinking about, the opinions you have. And remember, this might be my opinion, Meshack's opinion, and you might have your own opinion. So don't be limited. We're just talking about what works for him and what he has seen in the 10 years. So remember, it's 10 years of being a founder and CEO. Might not be wrong, guys. So just let's listen. And I want to thank you for coming and for sharing your insight, your passion, your vision, and the work that you're doing with young people. And how you are involving young people. I'm saying this because I've been to your initiatives that you're doing. And just to put it out there, if you want to learn more about the opportunities that Awake have for young people, for me, when I went to all of your social media could get all those. I don't know if you post all those opportunities there, so that those that are listening can just go and search Awake Youth Initiative in all social media platforms, or just search Meshack, because when you search Meshack, you get Awake Youth Initiative, and you're able to know what they're doing. And I hope you enjoyed this episode like I did, and thank you for listening. My name is June, and this is the Urban Online Show.